And yo, we are back. The Sports Bag Bros podcast is coming back at you, coming off of another weekend. And every time there's a weekend that passes by, there's always something going on in the world of sports. And we're not even talking about baseball. We're talking about just sports, period. Everything going on. The weekend allows that. So what's up?
What's happening? Interesting weekend in the NBA. Had a couple skirmishes, ejections. Love to see it. You know, nobody cared about the All-Star game. So you want to see some passion. They care now because coming down the stretch.
Exactly.
Especially in the West, you got teams fighting for slots and positioning. Nobody wants to be in the playing games. They all want to get to number 6 or higher. So, you know, they're playing meaningful games right now. So seeing that they care and getting into it, hey, I love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. The All-Star game, as you mentioned, doesn't even mean as much as it used to mean, even though it was kind of irrelevant anyway. But the best played the best, and they at least played harder in the last 4 minutes after giving the people what they wanted in terms of, I don't know, drama, theater, or whatever they were doing during the course before the 4 minutes. But now it is kind of down the stretch they come because it's going to separate the pretenders from the contenders, the usual saying. And you're seeing it right off the bat. These guys' passion is showing. Dudes are throwing fists. It is not just one game. It's really getting heated in a lot of games.
Yeah, it was funny to see Jimmy Butler's press conference. He says, I choked him, he choked me. Like, no big deal. You know, I'm sure the league office won't see it that way, but you know, I love to see it. I don't know if you saw that altercation Jimmy was involved in. I think it was totally unnecessary.
I actually didn't see it. So exactly what happened, not from beginning to end, but what did they highlight?
So Zion thought he got fouled. He stole the ball, I think, from Butler. He went to go. He went to the basket, got fouled hard, and he went down, but he wasn't thrown down. The guy was actually like just trying to hold him. But Zion's a strong dude. You're not gonna just hold him if you don't want to be held.
Country boy, yeah.
So, he got up. He wasn't even mad. Somebody said something, and then Jimmy Butler came in there, and next thing you know, hands were around throats, and they got separated. And Jimmy's trying to throw a punch. I think it was Jimmy that instigated it all, but that's no surprise there.
Yeah, I think he got fined as well. I think a couple of other people lost games and got fined over it. So, yeah, they got their pound of flesh and a bunch of pounds of cash taken away from them at the same time. But, yeah, that passion does matter. And moving forward, it's going to matter for these teams. Hopefully, they don't have to go as far to where someone can either get injured or a consequential player can get suspended for a longer period of time and affect his team's ability to move forward in the playoffs or towards the playoffs. Did you see that Lakers and Phoenix Suns game? I mean, it was nice until it kind of slipped away and the Phoenix Suns showed that they were the better team.
No, I was actually went to the Bob Marley movie last night. So no, I didn't see it.
What? I forgot about that. I mean, yeah, I said I was going to catch that. So I guess I'll be catching it either on Friday or sometime this weekend.
Just a quick film review. I thought it was good, but I think it really depends on, I was disappointed, and I'll explain why. It depends on your knowledge of Bob Marley.
Yeah.
If you know a lot about him, you're not going to learn too much.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's still a very good movie, very entertaining. Play a lot of his songs. It was almost like a mini concert. But I guess I went in thinking I was going to learn stuff, but I really didn't learn too much. So from that aspect, I was a little bit disappointed.
So you know enough about Bob Marley to be in the position to know so much about him that the movie didn't add anything.
I know a lot about Robert Nesta Marley.
Yeah.
At my other job, I had a guy come to me, and I was playing. I had a Bob Marley song was on. I don't remember the playlist, whatever, but a Bob Marley song was on, and it's a black guy. He goes, "Man, Gons, what do you know about Bob Marley?" And I say, I know that he was going to have a concert, and they tried to assassinate him, but he lived, and a few days later, he still performed that concert. He's like, you ain't stopping me. He's like, oh, shit. I'm going to have to start calling you Rasta Gons because you obviously know about it.
Rasta Gons.
he didn't lie. From that point on, he started calling me Rasta Gons. And people like, why you calling him Rastagons? He's like, man, don't worry about it. That's my boy Rastagons.
Yeah.
So I know a lot about him. So from that standpoint, it's not going to teach you too much if you know a lot about him already.
And I think that's exactly the truth, man. When you go to movies and you just want, especially a movie like that, you want to kind of learn something you didn't know, at least enough of it to justify the length of the movie, like the Ali movie with Will Smith. He did an excellent job acting and all that. But if you knew so much about Muhammad Ali, man, it did nothing for you, because you start looking at the movie and you realize there's a lot of places that they left things out. You thought they should have had him in. You think that way as a person who knows as much about him, and they didn't. There was too many things in that movie, I believe, that they left out, but they tried to highlight as much as they could within that time that they had to do it, and didn't do a good job, in my opinion. But in terms of the overall acting, I think Will Smith kind of got it there. But, and Bohemian Rhapsody, I thought it, because you know about Freddie Mercury, probably more about him than the rest of the band, Queen, but it was almost like a playlist. The entire movie was a playlist with a bunch of acting, a little bit of acting in between. That's what it was. People in there like a concert. Everyone's singing every time there was a song played. Right. People in the theater singing along with it. So it was a concert with a little acting.
You know what's a little bit, I don't want to say strange, but the guy who played Bob Marley, he played Malcolm X in One Night in Miami, and he also played Barack Obama. How does the same guy get all these iconic roles? And he's British. Forgive me, I can't remember his name. It's like Ben Adair or something. Great actor. You cannot tell that he's English. He got that Jamaican Rastafarian accent on point, man. He did a hell of a job.
Man, I guess he has that little Lennox Lewis in him. Go from Jamaica to Canada to London. So I guess he could kind of play on the accents when it comes to it. But yeah, man, I'm going to have to catch that movie, obviously. I forgot all about it coming out. I think the last movie I did go to was Oppenheimer, and I think they talked about that movie there in the preview, or at least showed it. But anyways, I said I was going to see it. But I guess being here for sports, we got to get back to that. And the Knicks played the Celtics. The Knicks still trying to get back together.
Wait. You got to talk about the Lakers and Suns. And LeBron crying about
the Lakers and Suns. Bro, the Lakers were hanging with them until they weren't hanging with them. In fact, one time the Lakers were down by 18, 36-18, and the Lakers fought their way back. You know what I mean? But then Phoenix just kind of got that little bit of surge before, and just kind of put the water on the fire, what they were doing. And it went back to them just dominating the game. LeBron James had a solid game. I mean, you don't always want to look at LeBron and say he's the guy, but for that game, he was the reason why they were even as competitive as they were. Anthony Davis, he was doing some things too, but Bo, man, that dude, Bo, man. This is the guy I've been on since he was in college. I'm hoping that he had somewhere to just sit and just grow as a player, and it seems like no one else believes it. Denver had him initially, and I think he was a second rounder only because he had some sickness going into the NBA combine or the workouts, and he lost a lot of weight. I don't think they really could put their finger on what it was. And then, so he dropped. And then, he was down in Orlando. Then now he's out here in Phoenix, and he dropped 25 points the other night. The dude can do that on the regular if you give him, but in the role he's in with the players that they have and the scores they have, he doesn't have to do it. But that guy's holding his own, and I like to see him develop the way he is.
Yeah. What I saw from that game was KD's interview after the game, addressing certain people, questioning his leadership. And they asked him, what was the key to tonight's win? He said, leadership. And he said, everybody was communicating, and the coaches, the players, then they helped the ball go in the rim. I said, how does leadership put the ball in the basket? What are you talking about?
Scrub would throw that up and make it go in the basket.
He was just trying to kind of subliminally tell people, hey, you questioning my leadership? I'm saying leadership won this game tonight. I thought that was hilarious.
But watching the game and knowing what Kevin Durant's been doing since he's been in the league, he was a guaranteed bucket every time, all the time. But now you can see his age, and I think it was kind of sort of glaring here. He had easy shots and going to the basket, and he was missing some of those shots. Before, if he just had even just an inch on you, he was going to get that guaranteed bucket. Now, I know it comes along with age, man, but the CKD is not like it's a precipitous drop, but it's a noticeable change from what we used to see from Kevin Durant all these years. And if you had to point to a time of okay, this is probably when he's just going to become not a normal player, but not the superstar player. This is around that time in his career. That's where he is. But I think even with that, as long as you have a guy like Devin Booker on that team that can pick up the scoring as well, they still have the pieces to be kind of formidable in the West this year.
Yeah, if they can get Bill healthy and all of them still are healthy
Out again,
playoff time, they're a dangerous team. I would still favor the Nuggets.
Woo!
Woo, the Nuggets. But like if they went up against an inexperienced team like the T-Wolves, not that the Suns have all championship experience, but at least KD's been there. Booker's been to the finals. They with that offense, they may be able to upset the T-Wolves.
Yeah, and the thing about this, you see these teams that are playing well right now, Oklahoma City in particular, when it comes down to those young players having this core of the team and everything looking good, and in the regular season, they can move it. They did it last season. They went to the playoffs and did fairly well, but the projection for this season was supposed to be taking the next step. Chet Holmgren comes in, and he's probably going to be number 2 in the Rookie of the Year voting, and they're looking consistent. They came down to earth a little bit, but with Oklahoma City being as good as they are, when the players do come, that's a team that Phoenix could probably beat and upset, because they probably would be an underdog against a team like that, the way they've been playing.
Probably, and there's still a lot of time left in the league. That team's awfully young. Chet Holmgren's rookie season, who knows what he's going to have left in the playoffs.
And that's the truth, too. Last year they were talking about, because he was injured in the preseason, how he might have had an opportunity to get in during the playoffs, and I'm glad they held him out and it allowed him to have his rookie year this year. And now he's looking, and he put the weight on, first of all, in the offseason, and he had his natural talent and whatever he had working with him as a professional, with professionals guiding his career now. He's showing it now, and he can only get better from that, add even more weight. He reminds me so much of Porzingis, being as thin as he was, and year after year got heavier and heavier till we see the finished product right now. I think he's even more skilled than Porzingis, and he just needs to put the weight on.
Yeah, he seems to be a better shooter, or at least more consistent shooter from the perimeter. But speaking of the T-Wolves, they might have the best chance of knocking off the Nuggets because of their size.
Yeah.
If Cat's going crazy and Gobert's playing great defense, it's hard to shut down Jokic. But, the Nuggets, they got Jokic. They got Michael Porter Jr., he's 6'10". Aaron Gordon, he's what, like 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah.
They're big, but the T-Wolves maybe can match their size.
And the athleticism.
And Karl Anthony Towns, if he gets rolling, who's going to stop him on Denver side? And I haven't even mentioned Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, and that's the truth, man. So this is going to be interesting on the West. I think a lot more predictability in the East, because it's so top heavy. And when there's probably 4 teams in the top in the East that are going to battle, and you can kind of see the Celtics still possibly coming out of it. I think anytime you talk about what's going on in the East, the Celtics can be a pretty unanimous choice of being the team that represents the East in the championship game. But you can also see Milwaukee, if they get their defense together. I'm not even going to mention the Knicks, because they just have too many missing parts right now. Guys are banged up. They went from being 14-2 in January to starting February off 0-4, and then finally getting the win and kind of dragging now, still with players injured. But then you have Miami. You don't know what Miami might do because of what they did last year. They have that ability to pull it together and try to pull it out, towards the end. Philadelphia still don't know what's going on there. Embiid changed everything. So, you still have, I think, a nice top 4 teams, but the Celtics seem to be the unequivocal, unquestioned number 1 team there. And
yeah, I agree with that.
They got improved it.
They're in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
I think they have, without a doubt, the best starting 5 in the East.
No question.
But Milwaukee has Giannis can go for 45, 50 on any night. Dame can go for 45, 50 on any night. And all Milwaukee has to do is keep it close, and Dame can take them home. I don't care who they're playing. That's the series I want to see: the Bucks versus the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Then you can have Lillard going up against Tatum down the stretch. That should be fun basketball.
But that's the one thing you can see between Boston and Milwaukee is that Milwaukee has that defensive deficiency right now. That's why they brought in Doc Rivers, whereas Boston has pretty much for the last 5 years had that defense. It could drop a little bit, but Drew Holiday, he brings even more defense to that team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that their defense
Good
still is
point.
going to be the difference because they can do what they do offensively. They have this best starting five, as you mentioned. And if they do put the medal down defensively, I can guarantee their defense over what Milwaukee's been doing so far, and even what Doc may add later on.
Yeah, that's a valid point. I agree with that. Boston comes and they do play some defense.
Yeah.
And Milwaukee's trying to learn how to play that defense, right?
Where did it go? They used to be in the top 3 defense for the past several years, including the year they won their championship. And all of a sudden, even last year they were good defensively. Then this year they're just, is it a Dame deal? Because
it's hard to believe that it's one guy, trade Holiday, bringing Dame, and that's the difference.
It seems to be.
But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we know Damian's not a defensive stopper. He never has been and probably never will be.
No.
But for the whole team to just stop playing defense, yeah, I don't believe you can blame Dame on that.
Oh, not Dame, man, but there has to be some accountability somewhere, man. I mean, even with management thinking that he could come in and probably do more offense in the beginning of the season, before the season started, when we saw this trade, you said before, man, were they looking to outscore people now? Well, that's exactly what they have to do because that defense isn't stopping anybody.
Right. So, yeah, it's not a surprise to me when the trade went down. That was my quote. They're going to try to outscore everybody. But at some point, you got to get a stopper too.
You have to. Exactly. This isn't the run and gun. And they've been doing a little bit of that. Hopefully they can get it together for their sake defensively. They have the talent to do it. I think all you have to do to play defense is be willing to play defense. And I think people get that kind of lost today in the NBA because you want to be flash and dash. And you want to get to the basket, make highlights, and make people say, ooh, ah, and posterize guys. But you still have to play defense. And not too many teams are doing that. And the ones who do are separating themselves. A la the Celtics are playing defense, separating themselves. The offense speaks for itself because they got guys who do that as well.
Right. I laughed just a moment ago because I saw the title of this video. Cam comes out swinging.
Yeah. And while we're on it, hey, let's get over it.
Why did he get jumped?
It's that he has this passing camp that he has. He's had it for years. And there was just it
wasn't Brock Purdy's boys, was it?
Yeah, that's what maybe those kids, those teenagers that were involved that started all this ruckus, maybe they were listening to him. Maybe they're 49ers fans. Yo, Cam, I don't like that you talk about our boy. And they just started from there. I mean, you know what? I'm looking at it as Cam fighting, and it wasn't. In fact, the cameras didn't catch him swinging at all. People swung on him. One guy swung at him. I don't know if it landed or not, just like the report said. But he was caught with 3 guys, men now. I guess parents of the players or whatever that were trying to get at him. You know, Cam's a big dude. I think people forget that him being the quarterback. He's a big dude. He's over 240 pounds. He's probably even more now. He hasn't played. You know, and this isn't the type of guy you probably want to go and try to swing with. I mean, but when you're 3-1, you know, you have a better chance.
That's why they went as a crew.
Yeah, but it was some incident, I guess. They say they still don't know what the argument was about, why it came down to this. It's just that it was under Cam's watch. And, you know, he has this every year. And security came and the police came, I guess, in order to settle it down. And I think above Cam Newton, the disrespect these kids showed in order to start this fighting and everything that got to him, that's, I think, is the bigger issue. You know, Cam's the name, but the fact that it just kind of accentuates the issues that kids are having these days, the disrespect, lack of respect, all of what they've been doing up until now. It's not even just this incident. Just look at the news of late or of the past 5 to 10 years. Kids are just different than when we were growing up, and they're getting only worse. No, they don't care about authority. They disregard life. And then you get something like this in an environment that's supposed to help kids. You know, he's supposed to be helping elite athletes or even athletes who just, you know, want to be under his tutelage and get their opportunities.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I want to wait to see what the details are of the situation before I really comment on it. But you know, Cam's taking a lot of shots at a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
And when you send that out there, sometimes it comes back at you.
Yeah, it's true. Now I'm wondering because I know I think I read a story about him and his flag football team. He was talking about any team that beats his flag football team, he would pay the team that beat him. And he actually lost. His team actually lost. I don't know if it was this year or before, but yeah, going back to this fight, man. This is supposed to be a productive environment. Players do that all the time in the NFL. A lot of times, these players stop doing that kind of thing once their NFL career is over. It's like they don't feel the obligation anymore because in the NFL, you're encouraged to do these things in the community and to help out the less fortunate and all those things. But Cam is still doing it. He's been out of the league for years now. He's still doing it. Now, he has an estimated net worth, depending on who you want to believe, between 75 to 100 million. But he still does that. He could walk away, do his podcast, talk about Brock Purdy till the cows come home, and people are going to just pay attention just because of that. He doesn't need this, but he does it because he actually, you know what? Players actually give a damn sometimes.
Did you see what your boy Warren Sapp said about him?
No, I haven't.
Called him a glorified running back.
Oh, yeah. I think I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago when we talked about that. Yeah, glorified running back when he was going on and on block.
This guy's out here criticizing other quarterbacks in the league now, and he was a glorified running back.
A glorified running back. Look at the numbers. You know, and I heard somebody today said, how are you going to go to the camp of a future Hall of Famer and do that in front of him? Where? Who was the Hall of Famer? What are you talking about here? He was a good player and obviously MVP of the league one season, and it was the season they had gone to the Super Bowl, but you know what? That doesn't make an entire career, a Hall of Fame career at that. But yeah, you know, I don't think, from what I understand right now and from what has been out there reportedly, I don't see any of this really falling on him. He's been doing the right thing with this, at least, for a long time, and there hasn't really been these kinds of incidents that I know of.
Yeah, plus he was the victim. He got attacked. So.
Yeah, exactly. But some roundabout, you know, and it reminded me a little bit of John Morant when he goes to the YMCA or wherever he goes to play his game, and that little teenage kid that was going to go out there and bring back the smoke for him. And, you know, and then we see what happens to John Morant later on and how his suspension came about, and, you know, even before that. You know, I'm thinking like, man, but Cam is not playing, so he doesn't have to worry about getting suspended from anywhere. I don't even think he has to worry about his reputation. I think he really just has to worry about his health because, as I've already mentioned, these kinds of kids don't just come back to throw hands if they're going to do that at all. They're going to cause problems because they'd rather spend a lifetime in jail as known as the person who took care of Cam Newton. That's the mindset.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. People in society are just out of whack nowadays.
And it's, you know, I like to say it starts with the parents, but the kids are just so far lost, and it's supposed to be because of the parents. But man, some of these kids are just way off the rails. I don't think anything can impede their destructive progress, you know, whether you gave them some type of an influence or not. I mean, some of them, you know, there's people who can't be saved, but you only need a few to infect everybody else and make it a bad situation. But anyway, hey, since we're on football, man, the combine starts today. It ends on Saturday. So we're going to probably do a little bit more combine talk, you know, well, at least for this week, but probably on Thursday. But, you know, college football, you know, is where it all starts. We can go back to the offensive coordinator now of UCLA. Deshaun Foster, the new head coach of UCLA, his alma mater, who used to play in the NFL himself. He has Eric Bieniemy, former offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders, now, and Kansas City Chiefs, we know, before the Commanders, now in college, man. I think if he's going to get any opportunity as a head coach, which he thought would be in the NFL, it's probably going to be in college somewhere. And I think it's pretty damn unfortunate. But there may be another reason why. It might be that attitude.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I mean, you think about all the jobs that have been available the last few years that he's interviewed for, and he didn't get a shot at any of them.
There's like 8 this year, right?
Mm-hmm. So I can't really blame him. There's more opportunities in college, way more positions, you know, way more colleges than NFL teams. So, he's going to go do his thing. I'm sure he'll get a job this time next year. Primetime's at his alma mater. Well, so I think that'd be a good spot for him, but we'll see how long Prime is there.
Exactly.
Colorado.
Well, he's the associate head coach and he's the offensive coordinator now with UCLA. And you know what? If he's going to move on in college, and if these stories that we've been hearing for now years about the way his mannerisms and the way he goes about business and what we talked about in the preseason when he talked to the commanders and the players have to go to Ron Rivera, you can't do that in these households with these kids these days. He's not going to be a good recruiter if he has that kind of a mindset. Even if he puts on his Sunday best, some of these parents see right through it. A lot of these kids see right through it. And if they hear enough stories out there and don't get to hear it from you, well, they'll already have that preconceived notion when you walk through the door with your spiel, and they're already going to tell you no before you finish your spiel.
Yeah, plus you think about all the other challenges UCLA and USC and the other West Coast teams are going to have in the Big Ten.
Oh, God.
You know, how do you recruit California kids and the bulk of your games are going to be in the Midwest or a couple on the East Coast? You know, if kids aren't into traveling, they want their parents to see them, it's going to be hard to sell those kids.
It is, man. You know what? When they decide to do this, I know they thought about all of that. They had to look at the recruiting and looking at the budget of these recruits of the recruiting schools. You know, that helps a lot. You know, when you're a smaller school, there's a problem trying to travel everywhere and try to be everywhere. You know, you can't coach across the country or you can't go across the country and get the better player. UCLA and USC have that kind of money to where they can't do that. But UCLA hasn't been on top of anything as of late. I mean, last season, they started the season off well, but they ended up being UCLA at the end. And then now you have Deshaun Foster, probably the head coach just because he's an alumnus. And now you have Eric Bieniemy, who's a Colorado guy, but he's a name guy that you can point to, says this guy was in the NFL. He's the reason why Pat Mahomes, if you want to go in that direction, whether it's true or not, he's the reason why Pat Mahomes done this. You know what I mean? And that may hold some weight. You know, but seeing the games on television, I think when it comes to recruiting, I think helps a lot. And then home games, when they give these recruits an opportunity to come to the home games and get that atmosphere going on, you know, get a feel for it, that helps. You know what I mean? But California has enough good players to get you a good team. You need to cherry pick in other states to become a great team, though.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they may get kids from other states that want to go to California.
Yeah, exactly. And there are quite a few that would like to. I mean, didn't Diddy's son go out to UCLA years ago from New York? Now, of course, you know, he went to Mount St. Michael High School in the Bronx, which is Mount Vernon, Bronx, right on the border. And I remember watching him as a high school player, only on video. I didn't go up there and watch him. And I didn't think he was a UCLA kind of player because at the time and even right now, a lot of New Yorkers aren't top flight college football players. There are a lot more now than it used to be, but they aren't top flight football players. I'm glad that they are putting players out there like now. They're getting a chance to go outside of the tri-state area to participate on teams. You know, but his son gets over there. He doesn't get any burn at all. And then Diddy comes to the conditioning coach looking to beat him with a barbell or something like that because his son isn't getting playing time. It's craziness, man. A whole bunch of nonsense.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Real crazy.
You know, but I just kind of mentioned that to say that, you know, players from New York going to California or players from Jersey, which has better players going to California. I can see that happen, just wanting to get out of that area, having a chance to go over there. But recruiting is really not going to matter as much now as it used to, because I forgot who I was going to mention last week who talked about it. And they were saying that, you know, unless you're a 5 or 4-star player, your recruiting is pretty much dead now because coaches are directly going to proven players from the portal. You know, that 2 and 3-star player who used to kind of slide onto the team, develop and probably do something by his junior year, he's not going to probably get the chance because so many recycled players who already you've proven you could play at New Mexico State. So you probably could be a 3rd-string player at probably Vanderbilt, you know, because of it. That kind of thing, man.
Yeah. So what do you think about storming the court?
Man, well, I've always liked it because obviously it has to be a huge win in whatever sport for someone to storm the court. But now of late, people have been getting injured. Players, you know, we saw Caitlin Clark. We thought she faked it. You know, maybe she did, but we saw that just a couple of weeks ago when they stormed the court.
I think she definitely embellished it.
You know, she embellished it, but you know what? It still shows the dangers of that type of thing happening. And now it really injures a player this time. So
Yeah, and I didn't know about this, but I think back in the early 80s, maybe, or late 80s, early 90s, there was a kid who was partially paralyzed
whoa.
in high school when the high school squad stormed the court. I didn't know about that. And that's really unfortunate. I'm not I don't think I've decided where I land on this. I don't think it's happened often enough to say, well, we're gonna ban it. But
Well,
I see the point. In the NBA, it doesn't happen. In the NFL, it doesn't
oh,
happen.
it can't happen anymore. It
Right,
can't. Too much security. You'll be
right.
a
That's what
dominant.
I'm saying. So it's a financial issue.
Mm-hmm.
Who's gonna foot the bill for the extra security?
Well, in colleges, I mean, recently wasn't Tennessee, I think, fined 100 grand or 75 grand, something like that. One of these teams had been fined a lot of money for their team storming the court. And so, those schools, I mean, they have the money to put up, but who the hell wants to give away 100 grand or even 75 grand? I would,
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
regardless of what's coming
Jay,
in.
Jay Billis said something crazy. He says if they want to storm the court, okay, but now detain them so they can't leave the court. How are you going to detain 20,000 people?
Exactly. Come on, Jay
Or
Billis.
if in football, 80,000 people. What if it's the big house, 100,000 people?
100,000, get
Or
out of here. It's just not
you're
going to
all
happen.
detained. You can't leave. Yeah, right. Get the fuck out of my way.
Somebody could end up shooting a player or shooting somebody, one of these security guards or police
That's just
officers.
utterly ridiculous.
But I can see where they're coming from, man. But the exhilaration of a big win, like I said, it doesn't happen often because it really takes an upset of monumental proportions for that to happen.
Nebraska's had three.
Yeah, but look at Nebraska's team this year. Who the hell's sleeping? They're like 19-8.
They knocked off 2 top 10 teams
Minnesota.
on the men's side, and then the women's knocked off Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
their AD Trav Elbers and Matt Rule stormed the court.
Gotta find them too, man.
Yeah, but the Big Ten hasn't fined them yet.
No, I don't think they probably won't. But I can see Trav Alvarez. He's that kind of dude, man. He's a kind of high strong dude, but he's a brilliant dude as well. But yeah, man, I didn't know that he and Coach Rule stormed the court.
They asked him about it. He was like, I was looking at Coach. I said, should we go on the court? And he's like, I think we have to. Yeah, they were there. The students were there. Hey, let's go. Matt Rule was awfully slow about it. He had his phone out and stuff, but I don't know. I think maybe that one was more controlled. Who's gonna take out the football coach? See, you know what I mean?
But I think when these kids charge, man, they're not looking at anybody in particular. Whoever they run into. Probably half of them are drunk any damn way by the time they get onto the court or on the field. I don't think they look for anyone particular. They just want to hug a player in their team colors and celebrate with them. I think that's what it comes down to. But, man, it happens rarely because it really takes a monumental win for that to happen. How often do we see monumental wins? I mean, now because stronger teams aren't as strong anymore, so teams that were middle of the pack can still upset them on occasion, and it happens. But Nebraska's basketball team, the men's team, is 19-8. They just beat Minnesota this past weekend. Bro, I didn't even realize that the record was that good in the Big Ten. Didn't they upset Michigan State?
Don't recall.
I think Michigan State lost. I know Michigan State lost. We can't remember who upset them, but I was like,
actually, I think they're 20-8. They're like fourth in the Big Ten.
28. Right? So they won that game then, the most recent, because I saw it before that game started. But anyways, Nebraska basketball is really never really that big. You talk more about Creighton before Nebraska basketball in the state of Nebraska at the time. But now they're showing up in basketball. Maybe football's kind of showing next if they can find a quarterback. The defense is solid right now. But
see, yeah. I think I don't want to say the responsibility lies with the players, but if you hear the buzzer and you see thousands of people running on the court, you got to keep an eye out to where you're going because you mentioned it. These kids, they probably don't know who they're running into. They're just running on the court.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get to either center court or find a player and jump up and down with him. And so you have to navigate your way.
They're coming from everywhere. They're coming from everywhere, these people, man.
They by the scorer's table, man. I don't know.
And in football, I mean, college football in particular, where they're
going to the stands, they're coming out, so there's space on the stands.
Well, a lot of time in football, though, they're going after the goalpost You know what I mean? Because I know I heard stories about the goalposts knocking people in the head and doing some damage in the past. But yeah,
that I want to say that's your fault. If you're down there by the goalpost and the goalpost lands on you, that's your fault for not paying attention.
Well, now typically it's usually the knucklehead who's helping to do it. It falls on them. So he's kind of getting what he deserves, or he or she is getting what they deserve, I guess, when it comes to that, because that's a lot of money. In fact, one time, was it an Alabama game or an Auburn game where they took the goalpost and just took it to a lake? What the hell? Bro! They had like a funeral procession for the freaking goalpost. Took it to the lake and was like, yo, here, you can have it now. The party's over. Come on. Ridiculous things. But yeah, man. But should it be banned? Man, the exhilarating feeling you get watching it on television, even when you're not a fan of either team, but if you watch the game and just saw how the ebb and flow goes and you kind of looking out for the underdog and the underdog does pull it off and they do, and they go out and do it, you like to see it. You don't like to see stupid things happen, but we've just been hearing recently how players are now getting injured. That's what's probably making people focus more on this.
See, I'm thinking of all the games I've been to. Never have I had the thought of, man, I want to run on the court. I want to run on the field.
You know what?
But if I'm there and people are doing it, would I follow? I can't say for sure that I wouldn't. I don't know.
I can say for sure.
I just haven't been at a game where people have rushed the court or the field.
I can say for sure I did do that. But that was back when I was a young dude. And it was a high school game. It was Jamal Mashburn's city championship game against All Hallows at Fordham University, the same school where Sebastian Telfair played when they had that Through the Fires documentary and whatnot. We went there and watched the game. Jamal was playing, obviously, the biggest star in the city at the time. My friend with the Cardinal Hayes, so we had a little tie-in to what's going on out there. So we all showed up. In fact, we saw these two guys. It was dark in there. These two guys. It was wintertime. We had a seat with all these jackets on it. These two guys comes like, hey, can you move your jackets? Looked at them and said, no. And they're about to walk away. And I looked, and it was PJ Carlissimo when he was at Cedar Hall. I said, yo, PJ Carlissimo. He's like, yeah. I'm like, yo, man, let's get these jackets out the way. He sat down next to us. And what we do, we talk football with him. Yo, why doesn't Cedar Hall have a football team? And they're like, come on, let's watch the game. But anyway, after the game, Cardinal Hayes won. We all ran onto the court, and Jamal Mashburn is on the court, celebrating, people going to him, but then some people just came out to fight. Because when I got to the court, they'll just put it and do just swung. I had a hat on, knocked my hat around this way because he put the brim of it. I was like, oh, snap. And I put my hands up. Every time we did that, we all got rushed and thrown on the ground. So I'm like, better get out of here, man. We're going to get injured. but it was a ruckus. Yeah, but it was a cool deal. But, man, that's the only time I ever rushed the field or a court or something like that, because there hasn't been a reason to do it any other time. I haven't been to a game where, we've been to exciting games. That hell, we have rushed the court if the Canes would have pulled off that Florida State win. Nah, he was on the road. The Canes were a road team. That would have happened. But yeah, that excitement can't get you there.
Yeah. So what's next?
I don't know. Once again, I think we could talk about. We haven't, because when we talk about boxing, we have our panel of experts who can talk boxing and get down to it. But I think there's enough boxing right now to talk about, and we can just kind of broach the topic. Canelo Alvarez, the super middleweight champion of the world, is leaving PBC, Professional Boxing Championship, and he's a free agent. And they're saying that he may sign with DAZN, and we know that Eddie Hearn is affiliated with DAZN and Matchroom Boxing. Man, you know what? I've always had a lot of respect for Canelo. I know some people don't like the way he goes about business, but I was like, this guy fights everybody. He fights all the time. He's always busy. He's won all these championships. He takes the risk, moves up. Fort Kovalov moved up. Fort Bevo. Bro, he doesn't want David Benavidez. He doesn't want him. Because that being with PBC would have guaranteed him David Benavidez. He would have rather leave than fight Benavidez. This is what that looks like to me.
If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a freaking duck.
No, and I hate to say it about Canelo, but I have a lot of respect for what he's done, and no question about it. He's a Hall of Famer, man. But the way he's going about business now, man, this is the fight people are dying for, and you're gonna walk away from this fight. You made Triple G wait a bit of time.
And they're talking he's gonna fight Berlanga. Who wants
Berlanga,
to see
that's what I'm
that?
about to say, Berlanga,
Who
man.
wants to see him and Berlanga?
And then the money he's asking for, I think he asked for 55 million? He wanted it in the escrow, and they didn't do it. So he was like, I'm walking. You know what? I think that Benavidez fight could get that kind of money that justifies 55 million. I think it is, man. Could be because of his record, and now he's ascending as a mainstream fighter. I think, and with Canelo already being a mainstream fighter, this could be a last hurrah, changing of the guard theme that you could have going into this fight. I think that fight would have been the fight to put it over that, that can justify the money for both of them. Benavidez is going to get the short end of the stick like he should, just like Mayweather did against De La Hoya. But you know what? It's going to open the door to him being that cash cow that Canelo used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest fight probably in boxing that could be made. I'm trying to think of. I mean, there'd be better matchups probably, but bigger.
I don't think it's bigger right now.
As far as the gate and attention, I don't think so.
You got two Mexican fighters. That should be an upset knowing that you're going to get what you paid for. And then, it just happens to be the biggest fight. We could talk about Spence and Bud getting back together for a second time, and I'm hoping that they don't, for Spence's sake. Boots and Crawford doesn't pull this kind of money. You know what I mean? I don't see anyone, even heavyweights, Usyk and Fury, I don't think it gets that kind of money or get that kind of buzz. When those two decided to fight one another, I wasn't overly enthusiastic about it. I was like, damn, that's going to be a pretty good fight to watch. But
the only way Usyk and Fury could generate anything close in the ballpark was if they fight, and the first fight is a great fight, and it warrants a rematch.
A rematch, yeah.
A rematch might garner a lot of attention, and just like a Benavidez versus Canelo fight. But other than that, I don't see it.
Yeah, and even with Bud talking about going up to fight Canelo at 168, coming from 147, going to 168 and fight him, even though we think Bud isn't one of these dudes that gives lip service, he really wants to do it. That's not a fight that must happen, though. You know what I mean? This is, like I mentioned on one time or another, it's an elective like in college. You can choose to take it or you choose not to take it. It'll be great if you do because you have two legends in the ring. But come on, we can live without it because it's just so far-fetched to begin with. But I
just want to say, I've been saying for years, Canelo's a diva. He's full of shit. I mean, he tells all these fighters, "Who have you beaten? What have you done? You don't deserve a fight with me." What has Berlanga done?
When he was saying that though,
what has Munguia done?
Berlanga that's no way, man.
What has Munguia done? Yeah, he looks good in fights, but who has he beaten?
No one.
So if he's saying you have to earn the right to fight me, why is he fighting these guys who haven't earned the right to fight him?
Man, I just see this Benavidez fight, period. And these other guys you mentioned, yeah, but this Benavidez fight, if he doesn't fight those guys, those other guys don't even matter because I'm not even going to waste the time watching him fight another Charlo. And Berlanga, why even waste the time? I mean, seriously. And I just didn't think that he would do that because he just seems like that dude, to me at least, all this time, that if you keep bothering him and get on his nerves, he's going to be like, you know what the hell, man, let's fight. That's it. He's always come across as that hardcore dude, and Benavidez has been on top of it, calling him all kinds of names, whatever, and he still hasn't pulled the trigger, man. I was like, damn, you can't
he won't even
him out. He's too young.
He won't even fight Morrell.
That's true.
But why not? Because he's dangerous.
Man. But I think that Benavidez is more dangerous, but still, yeah, man, if you're not going to fight one, fight the other. He had no problem fighting John Ryder, but John Ryder wasn't supposed to be that kind of fighter, and that was kind of a homecoming fight that was supposed to be on the platter. But and it turned out to be a tougher fight than he expected. But then the Charlo fight, don't get it miscombobulated because he came all the way up from 154 to fight him, was dominated as he should have been, and didn't even try to win the fight. This other Charlo, man, from the last time I heard just a couple of days ago, he may still be drunk. I don't know if it's true or not. He came on his podcast with slurring speech and talking and saying, I don't even know what's going on, man. He doesn't even know anything about the May 4th fight, but nothing's happening.
He had a blown up junior welterweight in front of him.
Yeah.
He didn't even really look good.
Yeah, exactly. He had Benavidez' brother. So he did fight Benavidez Just got the right one. Yeah, he had him on the ledger, man. Couldn't get rid of him. I thought he'd get rid of him. He didn't. So, but anyways, well, that's it in the world of boxing for now, at least. And as we wait around for fights that take shape, we got the Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia fight about to come up. And we have T.O. Who T.O. fight again? Or is T.O. even scheduled to fight?
He just fought a few weeks ago,
He just fought Jermaine Ortiz. And
I know, but his dad's talking crazy that Crawford knows that his son would wreck him. And come on, man.
That doesn't even fall into the category.
I don't know why media people give him a microphone to say stupid shit like that.
Because
if I was interviewing him, I'd be like, I'd stop, I'd grab the microphone, like, yo, stop bullshitting, give a real answer.
Ruben Guerrero, Angel Garcia, these fathers come out and kind of amp up their sons and try to push it out there.
Yeah, he's just trying.
You trying to what?
Well, I didn't say anything.
Oh, I don't know, something came through. But anyways, man.
It was probably because I had my hand on the microphone a minute ago.
Oh, all right. Because, I don't know, man. All these fathers are kind of going to put their sons on the pedestal, and when they lose, they get nothing but excuses along with the kid himself. So I guess then Tank fighting Frank Martin, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good fight.
That's a decent fight.
Yeah, it's a decent fight, but I think Tank kind of puts him out. Frank is still a little bit on the small side, and we know when Tank isn't fighting, Tank is still a big dude. He's a bigger dude. I don't even think he's weight bullying. He's just disciplined enough to get down to the weight he needs to get down to, and he's still effective.
But he's not very tall. He's like 5'4".
Exactly. He spent that weight 5'5", yeah, 5'5", probably less than that. But that weight is spread over that little frame, and he just has that power-packed body that he can just put it into. So yeah, man, I see how that works out. But man, baseball starting back up, pivot a little bit. I know people are not talking about spring training, but man, 22 runs scored by the Yankees the other day. Oh, was it 22 by the Yankees? 22-10. And then you had the Dodgers scoring 17 runs. It is preseason, and you have a bunch of mixed teams out there. But man, and then Marcus Stroman, I still don't know why the Yankees even picked this guy up. Looking bad in the spring training. I know you have to wait and see, but man, this could be one of those years of the juice ball once again. Everybody flying out of the yard, a whole bunch of runs getting scored. Maybe everyone has a Coors Field this year.
So if you've been watching us since the summertime and you remember NBA preseason, I said I don't watch any NBA preseason. I don't watch no NFL preseason games. I definitely do not watch any baseball exhibition games for the reason you alluded to. Or, we mentioned last week, you got split squads.
Yep.
You got guys from A-ball and
that would never make the roster no matter how well they play.
I was flipping through YouTube, and of course, being a White Sox fan, I subscribe to their White Sox channel.
Yeah.
He says, I'm trying to remember, Elko showing what he can do in the majors. He hit one home run against some dude I never heard of. Preseason exhibition games, that's not really the majors. Not when you have like 60-man rosters.
Yeah, seriously, man. For real. This is watered down as you can get. It's not even AAA. Might fall right in the middle of AA, man, with that. All that talent if you balance it out. But yeah, I mean, baseball's getting a little closer, if nothing else at all. So that's just something to mention. A lot of runs being scored. I think Ohtani hasn't played yet, so I think he is going to play. Tonight, I guess, if they're playing, or today or tomorrow. I just haven't seen him in the preseason yet.
Since we're on baseball, imagine the disappointment if the Dodgers don't at least make it to the World Series.
I'm waiting because, bro, this roster right here, this murderous row of everything, this is not even just people batting up. You're talking about the pitching staff as well.
Mm-hmm.
They should go. They should set
They have 8 or 9 quality starting pitchers potentially on their roster.
And seriously, that's the truth. They should beat the Yankees 125-50 record. They should. With that kind of a record, with that kind of a team, they should beat that record, man. I mean,
yeah, they should win 140 games, like 140.
Seriously, man.
22.
They should start this season off like the '84 Tigers did when it was like 35-5. Go like 50-5 or something like that. Then maybe lose a game every weekend. That's the kind of team they have right now.
So one of my coworkers, he says, You shouldn't be fans of teams. You should be fans of players. And the way things are going on the south side of Chicago, if I go that route, obviously I'm not. I can't be a fan of. I'm not gonna pick a guy in the American League, so I got to go Ellie De La Cruz in Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, bro. We already saw his act. I'm just waiting for part 2, or really part 1.5, because he didn't start off last season. Man,
Right.
this guy, the way he ended the season, the way he started and ended the season, man. Listen, he's still eligible to win Rookie of the Year next season, is he?
Depends on how many at bats he had.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
don't
yeah.
recall
Wait,
when he came up or how many at bats he has.
and by the freaking way, I was just kind of just looking up, not even looking up, just kind of just fell in my lap the other day. The most popular team based on Google searches in all of baseball, the freaking Atlanta Braves.
I believe it.
Wow, I mean,
You
I
talk,
can't believe it because of the team they have and Acuna being the freaking ridiculous stud
yeah,
that he
but
is.
also their pitching.
But I was thinking, you would think the obvious cat now with the LA Dodgers and the New York Yankees and the Chicago Cubs, Boston Red Sox, you would think that those teams, based on those metrics, would be, will be there, but they aren't. Atlanta, it surprised me to a degree, but it doesn't. But I still kind of like, whoa, seriously, Atlanta? And they're making a run every year because they do have the pitching, they do have the firepower, and they kind of stumbled last season. So, and there's no reason to believe they won't be back. They did win the World Series 3 seasons ago. So there's always, and they haven't really busted up the team. I mean, Freddie Freeman has left from that championship team, and now on to another possible championship team in LA. But man, I mean, the Atlanta freaking Braves, the most popular team in the Major League Baseball right now, based on searches, which is a good method.
No, who really expected the Rangers and Arizona last year?
Yeah, that's true. But you know what? I tell you what, the Rangers is one of those teams that if it's not your team, I can still sit back and watch them do what they did. You know what I mean? I like the Arizona. Come on, no one saw that. I don't think the players saw that until they started working out as the end of the season was coming. But the Rangers, man, I like that they won the World Series, man. The first World Series, I can dig it. So yeah,
but if I were to pick an American League team, it would be the Blue Jays. Vlad Jr.
Right about
saying, and yeah.
Shoot.
They got a bunch of juniors that MLB players.
Oh man, see, if I were gonna pick a team in the American League, it probably, it would have been Toronto, but I think Tampa Bay, only because they're just a pain in the Yankees' ass. And whoever's the management, the ownership, scouts, those guys got to be among the best in the business, because with that crappy budget they have every year, that crappy area they play in, they still find those freaking gems. They just don't have enough to keep these guys when they start plateauing. If they kept all those
wait. For anybody watching, if you're a White Sox fan or if you just know baseball really well and you're like, how are you a White Sox fan? You're not gonna say Louis Robert. I do watch Louis Robert. Okay, he's my center fielder. I think he was robbed of the Gold Glove last year. He's gonna have, as long as he stays healthy, that kid's gonna put up monster numbers and he's gonna play incredible defense.
Well, so do you have, or is it too early to talk about what you're looking forward to with the White Sox this year, or you just wait until training camp ends and the season starts?
Oh man, I don't. You asked me what I'm looking forward to. I don't even want to say it. God forgive me. Jerry Reinsdorf dying. That's what I'm looking forward to.
You gonna make it?
I'm sorry. The team's not getting sold until he passes away.
Wow. See, you can have somebody else's wife crying now. So that's somebody else's wife crying after you get
I feel bad for saying it, but you asked me. That's my honest opinion.
And that's the only way I guess the team is going to change and have a chance to move forward. And when you talked about the most money they spent on a player and the player they spent that money on, it's almost like he's just giving you all the middle finger and say, "Hey, what you going to do about it?"
And then he's blaming us as fans for the reason they don't sign people.
Well, I'm still in that Yankee bandwagon waiting for number 28. Been waiting for a long time, but it looks like I might wait till 2025 because those Dodgers better take care of business this year. Injuries shouldn't even be a problem this year if they had them. They have that much talent and depth. I mean, injuries, you can lose like 3 superstars, like, yo, bro, we just missed the Yankees record, but we still got a World Series win.
And I just want to say that I'm seeing more people talking about the racist shit that's going against going towards Caitlin Clark.
There we go
We've
again.
been on that. We started that like a month ago, well before these
Way
people.
before, yeah.
So I'm just saying, like we saw that from the beginning.
Man, everybody wants to invoke race, but then they want to kind of manipulate it to where it just fits their little agenda because I don't know how they can twist it this time to feel oppressed about her destroying everybody out there and the stats that they are. I mean, people breaking their necks to take away credit from her, like what was it, Cheryl Swoops again? I was saying it about how I'll only accept the record, or I just think they have to have the same amount of games, even though Caitlin Clark broke the record in fewer games.
That's game.
I mean, it doesn't even make sense. You're just saying things because oxygen's free on the day you spoke it. And it's just nonsense. And it's so obvious what your agenda is. And I've seen that not so surreptitiously in a bunch of areas of sports, whether it's football, because I think Cam Newton's on that same bandwagon when it comes to Brock Purdy. And if it comes to another quarterback that's not on Brock Purdy's level, he's going to put him up there anyway. You know, I just think, man, I don't know why it's still an issue. Typically, people come to sports to get away from the nonsense out there. And then you come to sports and it just comes and pollutes that as well. All the nonsense from the outside, whether it's politics and what comes from politics, which may lead one to believe one may be racist, one may not be racist. You come to the sports for some kind of peace and you don't get it because someone comes and brings it up in there. You know what I mean? We're not even talking about taking knees. We're talking people being pretty explicit with what they're saying, even though they think it's like undercover when it's not. It's ridiculous how it's going. And Caitlin Clark, you're talking about a woman now, the same women we're supposed to always look at and just say they're never wrong. They're always doing things correct. Now you don't like this woman because she's not the right color of the star you would prefer to have moving on to the WNBA, because that's what I believe is going to happen when she gets to the WNBA. She's going to be the star player heading in. She's going to get the endorsements. And we already know that the reason why she's getting the endorsements is, and you're going to hear that nonsense, but she's also going to be the reason why those eyes are going to be on the WNBA for a change, at least for a little while, unless she turns out to be an absolute flop, which I doubt.
Yeah, I doubt it. She's too talented to be a flop. I mean, when
it's not about shooting one thing. It's about a whole bunch of things she does.
Right. But when you can shoot like she does, you don't just lose that ability.
Nope.
But the way she sees the court, her IQ, even if she doesn't average 25, she's still gonna drop dimes. She's still gonna get rebounds.
Yep.
But you know, we've been promoting Caitlin Clark here for a while, and now we got someone else we got to promote, Juju Watkins at USC.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
Well, yeah. She can shoot the rock too.
Yes.
You gotta watch out for her.
Cheryl Miller. If you're up there with Cheryl Miller, that says enough right there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Same school as well. So yeah, props there. And you know what? Give the respect where respect is due. It shouldn't be one size fits all, but you still should be able to give credit to people as they're doing it, no matter who the heck they are. You know what I mean?
Here's my question. How long is it before Cheryl Swoops comes out and praises Juju Watkins?
Probably already done it. We just haven't seen it. Just do a Google search. You'll find it.
This is the one who should break the record, right?
Yeah, right. And
3 years from even being anywhere near the record. Yeah.
She wouldn't even think that is a bad look. If she came out and said something like that, she would not even think that's a bad look. You know, I heard enough of Perkins crap when he's trying to fumble over words and trying to make things about race. I used to listen to his nonsense on that, but now you see him from
you talking about Big Perk?
Perkins, like when he and JJ Redick got into some issues about
Big Perk. Okay, yeah,
Big Perk for basketball. Big Perk,
right.
You know what I mean? So he's just the male version of what Cheryl Swoops is now, but then there's a whole bunch of them out there. You know, Stephen A tries to cut it down the middle, but you can kind of see his leanings, and it's not a racial leaning in his case, you know, but it's just, it shouldn't even come down to that, but that's what we're in right now. This is the society we live in, and I already know once those endorsements start coming to Caitlin Clark, once she decides to go to the NBA, or once she's going to the NBA, being the number one pick, people are going to tell you why she got those endorsements. Instead of she have everything to do except for her basketball ability.
Does she have a State Farm commercial? I thought I saw one.
I mean, you know, all the commercials she's going to get. Caitlin, yeah. All the commercials she's going to get once she's in the
I'm saying she's already have them.
She's already getting scope. You know what I mean? Getting the bag and all that. And she's not obnoxious. You know what I mean? And they try to make her seem as if she's obnoxious. she'll do that little thing she used to do, and they made an issue out of it. But bro, you can hear her press conferences. You hear stories about her giving autographs to fans that come over her shoulder in a game. You know what I mean? And she remembers plays and goes back to them and get the autographs to them.
Yeah.
You hear this thing about, hear those kind of stories about her. But yep, people rather just keep that negative nonsense going because they don't believe she should be the one. Well, stop her. Then she be the one. That's
right.
the easy way.
So let me address something real quick. On our last video last week, we had a bunch of comments, and one guy says you should have me on the podcast. We're open to that.
Yes,
we are open to that. We want interaction. We love the comments, good and bad. It just makes sense. That's all I ask for.
That's it. It's not even a matter of telling you you're wrong because you are wrong. We'll let you
don't come at us with feelings, because a couple of comments they seem feeling charged.
Oh, like, yeah.
There was no facts to back up. There was just statements that came from the heart or from an angry mind. And if we're gonna have you on, you can cuss. I cuss. Just don't cuss at us.
Hey, that rhymes too.
No disrespect. No disrespect. We'll respect you if you respect us.
And that's true.
That old saying, don't want none, don't start none.
Oh, exactly.
I'm thinking that won't be none. That's what I meant.
If someone comes on this podcast and decide because they disagree with us, or even if they agree with us and they came on the podcast, they'll be treated like all the other panelists we've dealt with, typically with boxing, because we have boxing panelists, or when we had Bosco for the Bronx on, when we talk about a myriad of other sports, you'll get the respect you deserve. And I'm sure if they choose to do something like that, they'll uphold their end of the bargain, trying to make their point if they're making a point, and being cordial as they should be. If things goes off the rails, we already know how that's going to go. So, hey, that's just life, man. Things happen. But yeah, you
want to come on the show, let us know. We're not opposed to it.
Nah. And that's a way to end the show today, because now Thursday we may have another show with someone that came from the podcast or came in the comments and wanted to show up, and we'll find out in between that time if that's a possibility. So you're going to have to wait. But until then, I'm Trav, he's biased, and the Sports Bag Bros podcast is coming to an end on this Monday after a huge weekend of a whole bunch of sports. Until next time.
Peace.